So many people believe the lie that you need 20 to 25% down to buy an investment property. Many people also believe that you have to invest where you live and that beginners can't use creative financing to purchase rental properties. In this video, I'm going to address each of these lies, and I'm going to show you several creative financing strategies that you can start today. I also want to clear up some false information that I've seen about one of the strategies we're going to talk about today, so make sure you stay until the end of the video so you can see that. But first, I need you to hit that subscribe button. If you want to get better at real estate investing, you have to follow this channel. Also, make sure you go to the description of this video. There are a bunch of free resources that help you get started in real estate investing. The first strategy we're going to talk about is partnership. A concern that many of you have is that you don't have enough money to buy an investment property. But what if I told you that you don't actually need all the money? Partnerships can be beneficial in many ways. One of the benefits is that it helps you to share the risk with another individual or several other partners, which is better for everybody. It can also be structured in a variety of different ways based on what works best for everyone in the group, whether it's you and one other person, or whether it's you and let's say 4 or 5 other people. You can figure out the terms that work best for everyone to win. Here's an example. Let's say you need $25,000 for the down payment and closing cost on a property. You have $10,000 and your friend has $15,000, which means that you put up 40% of the funds and someone else put in 60% of the funds. Now you can buy the property. The next step is figuring out responsibilities. You'll have to decide things like who will manage the finances, when you'll start distributing income, who will be the point of contact for the tenants and or the property managers, what the process would be if someone wants to leave the partnership and get bought out, and a whole lot more things. I definitely recommend consulting with a lawyer as you're working through these things, just to make sure everything is crystal clear and also to make sure that everyone can win in the end. I don't recommend doing business with strangers. You want to do business with people who you know, like, and trust. There's a whole lot of craziness going on out here in the world of real estate, and I do not want you to get scammed. So don't rush into any partnerships. Don't let anybody pressure you into any partnerships. Anything you do in real estate, you have to make sure that you are comfortable with what's going on and that you're fact checking and that you're doing your due diligence. So don't rush into a partnership. If someone tells you about something and it's too good to be true, then it is too good to be true. You're not going to get rich overnight. You're not going to get rich in 60 days, right? So be very mindful as you're out here potentially looking to get into some partnerships. And again, you want to work with people or consider working with people if you want to do a partnership who you know, like, and trust, and you know aren't going to scam you. To make things simple, let's say that your percentage of ownership aligns with the amount of money that you put into the property. This means that you would own 40% of the property you and your friend purchased, and your friend would own 60%. If the net rental income is $1,000 per month after all the expenses are paid, you would get $400 and the partner would get $600. There are many ways to find people who might be willing to partner up with you. Some ways are going to local real estate meetups and just getting to know investors, building relationships, and seeing if there's someone there who might be a fit for a partnership now or in the future. You can also text your friend group, get in the group chat and let people know, hey, I'm planning to invest in real estate. Here's where I want to invest. Has anybody else ever thought of it, right? And just throw it out there. You'll be surprised. You never know. You might have a friend who's interested who you didn't think would be. So that's 2 quick, easy things that you can do to potentially gain some partnerships. So let's check out how a partnership worked out for 4 women over a period of about 40 years. So these 4 women purchased a 6-unit building in 1986 for $75,000 when the owner wanted to sell. Now they plan to sell it. They said, never did we as a group imagine owning this building, said Janice Washington, one of the 4 women who were able to purchase the building despite earning less than $15,000 a year, thanks to the help of a local nonprofit and the DC government. After watching the neighborhood and the building go through changes for nearly 40 years, the women have collectively decided to sell the building. Noelle Christine Spencer of TTR Sotheby's International Realty notes that similar properties have sold in the same area for more than $1 million per the outlet. In fact, she recalls another edifice recently sold for roughly $2 million. This is fantastic. So 3 of the women plan to move to senior living homes and 1 plans to buy a home in Maryland. Now, this is just one example of many ways a partnership can work. And in the long term, they're winning, right? I'm sure they'll take their proceeds and it'll help supplement their retirement, and they'll go on and live the rest of their days very comfortably. The next strategy is one that I don't see many people talking about. And this strategy is the only reason that I was able to buy my first out-of-state property almost 5 years ago. The second strategy is using your retirement account to invest in real estate. When I first started investing out of state, I knew that I was not going to be able to simply save money from my job and buy a property anytime soon. It just wasn't going to happen because I was not making enough money. I was able to borrow up to 50% of the balance in my retirement account and pay myself back with interest over 5 years. The monthly payment was affordable for me, and so I immediately did the paperwork and got the money. The other option I had was to withdraw the entire balance, but I would get a huge tax penalty. So at the time, I didn't think that made sense. The various employee retirement plans vary, but here's an example of what that could look like in real life. Let's say you borrowed $20,000 from your retirement plan at an 8% interest rate and pay it back over 5 years. Your monthly payment will be $405.53. The amount you need and of course what's available in your account varies, but this is an example of what it can look like. I recommend considering this only if the payment is something that you can afford. So maybe that means you don't take up to 50%. Maybe that means you play around with the numbers and see what it is that can be affordable for you, and perhaps it can fill in a gap and help you to buy that property just a little bit faster. For me, it sped up my timeline by a whole year, which was incredible. The next strategy is one that a lot of folks have many misconceptions about. The next strategy is seller financing. Seller financing is a real estate agreement in which the seller handles the mortgage process instead of a financial institution. Instead of applying for a conventional bank mortgage, the buyer signs a mortgage with the seller. Before we get into more specifics, here are some of the misconceptions that I've seen about this particular strategy. The first is that many people believe that these opportunities can only be found off the market, which means that you won't find them on Zillow, Redfin, and places like that. Many people believe you can only find these opportunities if you go with wholesalers or if you go directly to the sellers of the properties. This is false. It's absolutely false, and I'm going to prove it. I recently spoke to Isla Corcoran about this strategy. Let's hear what she has to say about it.
And I went on Zillow and immediately found a property, and in the notes, because you can filter on Zillow by keywords, I had filtered by seller financing, and in the notes of one of the properties I found, there was a seller who was specifically asking for a buyer who could use them as the seller to carry the note and pay 10% down and essentially do a 10-year mortgage by the seller. So allow the seller to carry the deed, to carry the note, transfer the deed, and then you would pay monthly for 10 years. And their purpose was they didn't want to pay taxes on all of the proceeds immediately, which makes total sense because it's a huge tax bill. It's from someone who has paid off their property entirely and owns it in full.
So now that we have her perspective from somebody who's actually done it, let's look at an actual listing. So this property is a 4-bed, 1-bath in Dayton, which is the city I invest in. And when I did this search, I searched for seller financing, and let's see if it actually worked. So we have, the paragraph, the description of all this stuff. And at the very end, it says the seller is open to creative seller financing. And I found this on the MLS. I found this on Zillow, and it looks like it's currently tenant occupied with the lease coming up at the end of the summer. All the information that you might need to look into and see if it's something you want to do. But like I said, the seller is open to creative seller financing. So now you're probably wondering what kind of paperwork is needed for a seller financing agreement. I had a great conversation with Isla, and she did a great job talking about the paperwork that she used to close on a seller finance deal. So let's hear from her again.
So it was a promissory note, which is basically just a promise to pay a debt, and they have a lien against the property as a lender would that says that they are entitled to the debt being satisfied should this title transfer in any way, meaning if I sell the property on title, it'll show that they're a lien holder and they need to be repaid. So they have their I guess, protections in that way. But it's a promissory note, basically a contract that says this is the total amount of the loan, and these are when the payments are due, the first of every month, and this is the amount of the payment, and this is the term, and you promise to pay it, and it's signed and notarized at closing. So similar to any other real estate transaction, instead of signing all those pages of lender paperwork, it was like a lot shorter, and it was still essentially saying the same thing, but just between me and the former owner directly.
To recap seller financing, let's look at an example. Let's say you're purchasing a property for $100,000 and putting 10% down. Your interest rate is 8%, and for the first year, you're only paying interest. So you're not paying principal, just interest. Your principal and interest payments start in year 2. Then the balloon payment, which means the entire balance is due, would be in 10 years. One of the exit strategies that you can use is to refinance the property into a traditional mortgage and pay off that balance that you owe to the seller. The great part about it is there are so many different ways to structure a deal like this, which is fantastic. What we talked about just now doesn't account for property management, doesn't account for taxes, doesn't account for insurance. So those are things that you want to factor in when you're doing a deal like this. And of course, you want to have a lawyer help you to draw up the agreement and make sure you're straight on that end. Now I want to get personal with you. If you live in an expensive city where it seems impossible to buy a property, I need you to pay very close attention to this next section. I've been investing out of state for almost 5 years because where I live in California was and is still too expensive. I honestly gave up until I found out about the opportunities in other cities to buy properties at a low cost, get great rent in cities that are heading in the right direction. Many folks online will tell you that it's only worth investing if you're in big cities, that you should only invest within a drivable distance, that you should only invest where you live, and so many other things. I'm here to tell you those are all lies. And I know they're lies because I've done the complete opposite, and you can too. I'm saying this as somebody who lives in California and invests in Ohio. I'm here to tell you that it's possible. You simply need the right information and a plan, and you can do it too. In a few weeks, I'm going to be releasing a free training that you can watch at your own pace that'll tell you more about the out-of-state investing process and the benefits of investing out of state. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming up very soon in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, I just came out with a free resource called the Remote Landlord's Toolkit. And in this toolkit is going to break down for you what is the reality of being a remote landlord and showing you that it's possible. You just need the right information and a plan, like I said. So this resource is going to help you with that. So go into the description of this video and you can find that. So now that you know about creatively financing real estate, I want you to learn about the foreclosure crisis in commercial real estate. Check out this video right here.